Welcome, ladies and gentle wizards. I have nearly 1,200 hours in Dark and Darker, most of those as a solo wizard. I fell in love with the outplay possibilities of the class and its dominant potential in trained hands, but so many veterans discourage new players from even touching it. Today, I want that to change. This video is specifically for you fresh apprentices and will help guide you through your very first dungeon run as a solo wizard. Let's get started. After you create your first wizard character, the first thing you're going to want to do is customize your base kit. You'll do this in the Squire Merchant. You'll want both a spellbook and a magic staff, but you can ditch the junk quality frock and the cloth pants. The minor amount of armor rating they provide does not nearly make up for the move speed that they cost you. Add a healing potion and a bandage, then save your base kit and equip it. Now we're going to customize our skills, perks, and spells. Replace the meditation skill with the intense focus skill and the mana surge perk with the staff mastery perk. Since we don't have any knowledge gear yet, our spell cast speed is terribly slow. The intense focus skill allows us to instantly cast any spell after using it, which will be very useful if we have to fight anyone off. We're going to be avoiding PvP for now, but it will be the skill we use for normals PvP eventually, so it'll be good to get used to having it equipped. The Staff Mastery perk simply adds magical damage to our magic staff melee hits, which are usually just physical damage. This will help us kill mobs a bit faster, which will be the primary focus of our first runs. For our spells, we're going to choose Fireball, Invisibility, Zap, Magic Missiles, and Ignite. Ignite is a great spell for clearing tanky mobs, since it adds more magic damage onto your melee hits, including extra burn damage. We'll go over the uses of the other spells as needed in the dungeon later. For the most part, we're going to be learning to clear mobs with melee only, so we can save our spells for potential PvP encounters. Once you're comfortable in the dungeons, feel free to swap spells in and out to your liking and begin to build your own playstyle. Back in the main menu, we're almost ready to jump into our first dungeon. You're going to want to select the Normals Goblin Caves map, since it's going to be the easiest to traverse as a base gear wizard. If there's a map rotation timer when you're watching this guide, make sure you wait until it's the solo variant of the map. Now it's time to enter your first dungeon as a solo wizard. The first mountain all solo wizards have to climb is learning how to clear mobs while minimizing damage taken and while also preserving most of your spells. To help you through this first journey, the rest of this guide is going to show you how to fully clear every module of the Goblin Caves map so that no matter where you spawn or what route you take, you can clear the PvE and start collecting some loot. If you make mistakes that cause you to die to mobs or you get pushed by a bloodthirsty player, don't worry. Just dust yourself off and get right back in there. I've broken the rest of the video into chapters for each module, following these numbers. So if you're having trouble on a certain module, you can easily go to the part of the video dedicated to walking you through it. Now, let's jump into module number 1. The first mob we need to clear is a Death Beetle. I draw it into an open area where I have plenty of room to sidestep its attacks and then bonk its head in between dodges. Next up is a Goblin Archer. Similar to how we handled the Death Beetle, we're just going to sidestep its shots and head bonk it in between. For the Axe Goblin, we just hit it to bait its attack, then step back to dodge it, and then hit it again during its recovery period, and we repeat this until it's dead. This basic formula is going to be the foundation for clearing most melee mobs in the game. The Goblin Bolaslinger is usually tricky to deal with, but you can just pull it to a corner like this, and it'll try to attack you through the wall, and you can just hit it during the dead time like a melee mob. We never want to aggro more than one mob at a time, but sometimes you just don't have a choice. Since the Axe Goblin is easy to deal with, I can focus on dodging the Mage attacks while I bait, dodge, and bonk the Axe Goblin. The Mage Goblin itself is super easy to kill once you close the distance on it. Just strafe to the side to dodge the attacks and then bonk it in the downtime. Other than a different attack pattern and slightly more HP, the Goblin Warrior is pretty much the same as the Goblin Axeman for us. Just bonk, step back, and repeat. All fire traps are timer based, so the key to not getting burned is to always wait until they've just stopped before you cross. If you approach a fire trap and it's not currently on, play it safe and wait for it to cycle through, because a single blast from it will damage you severely.
In normals with our setup, white spider mummies are 1 hit to the head and 2 hit to the abdomen. Most spider mummies come from a tilted orange ceramic pot like this, and the pot will continually spawn up to 3 of them until it's broken.
In this spot, you'll have to deal with spider mummies and a death beetle at the same time. I was able to kill the spider mummies and then deal with the beetle, but just before I killed the beetle, the newly spawned spiders got to me, so I hopped to dodge their attacks at the last moment. If you hop onto a couple of spider mummies, you'll kind of surf on top of them until you get tossed off to the side. This takes us to our first sub-boss, the giant centipede. They are very tanky, so we use the ignite spell to beef our staff hits. The spit attack there was easy to dodge, and a few melee hits triggered its retreat action. Be sure to never step in the green poison puddles while it does this, usually just wait for them to come back to you in a few seconds. When the centipede rears back like this, it's going to either lunge attack or spit attack. The lunge attack is simply dodged by stepping backwards like with melee mobs, and the spit attack is dodged by crouching and looking down. The wind-ups are similar, but I know that this is a spit attack because of the neon green visual effect around its head, so I crouch and look down. Discerning the two attacks takes practice, but after a few tries, I promise you the centipede will become a walk in the park. One thing to note is that to vertically dodge the spit attacks like this, you need to be on somewhat level ground. If you find yourself on a ramp or a box, you'll probably have to jump or laterally dodge the attack. I actually wasn't paying super close attention there when it attacked, so I stepped back and crouched and looked down, which is a good strategy to keep you safe no matter what. Our first elite mobs we see are these red spider mummies. They are faster, deal more damage, and have more health than the white normal ones, so they'll take 2 hits each instead of the regular 1. You can hit multiple mobs in a single sweep like this, which is especially helpful against spider mummies. Spider mummies can't hit you while you're on an elevated surface, so jumping on top of their pot and weakening them, then breaking the pot, and then finishing them off is the best way to clear them when you're under-geared like we are. Mummies are just another melee mob, except their main attack is a lunge that reaches quite far, so you just have to step back equally far to dodge it. Its other attack is just a swipe, which is dodged quite easily. Dealing with 2 mummies at once isn't too much of a hassle. One of these is an elite version though, as you can see the red coloring. So just like before, it will be faster, stronger, and tankier. Once you get the timings of their attacks down, balancing the bait and punish formula across 2 melee mobs isn't much harder than one. Skeleton crossbowmen can one-tap you if you aren't careful, as they have high damage, pretty good tracking, and they aim for the head. You want to bait their shot and then either hide behind cover or quickly move sideways to dodge it. The projectile velocity of their bolts is very fast though, so you'll need to be at a further distance than you would from regular archers in order to dodge it successfully. With our gear, they take 3 bonks to kill, so I usually hit them once in the first cycle and then twice in the second, since they'll be dead before they get that second shot off. Notice how instead of entering the bridge to fight the archer goblin, I pull him to an area where I have more lateral room to dodge his attacks. This is a strategy I use against ranged mobs throughout all of the maps. I originally was going to skip the section down here around the corner because it's very complicated for a beginner to manage, but I decided to go back and record it anyways for anyone that's feeling adventurous. This first fire trap is on a normal timer like in the other modules, but the other 2 lines of fire traps are on a sequential timer, so you just have to wait for a gap to open up so you can cross. You'll also need to crouch through this section since there are spike traps on the walls at head height. I stood up a little too early after crossing the first line and nearly got impaled. The giant bat can be taken out with 3 hits to the head, but its head hitbox is very small and its wing hitboxes are very large, so you have to be precise about the angle of your swing. We'll see more bats upstairs and go over their attack patterns then. The Skeleton Axeman is one of the few mobs that will just use spells to kill. One zap to wake it up and then a full magic missile volley to the head is enough to take it out as of when I made this video. It has very good tracking, which makes it difficult for a beginner to dodge its attacks, so it just makes the most sense to indulge in a couple spells for this one. In this area of the module, we have spider mummies as well as multiple giant bats hidden in the ceiling. To make things easier for us, we'll break the spider pot with a fireball immediately, then kill all the spiders and then deal with the bats. The giant bat's first attack is a screech that gives you a dizzy visual effect. Dealing with multiple bats at once can be difficult, so we use a volley of magic missiles to quickly kill one of them. The giant bat's main attack is a lunge that must be sidestepped, and then you can headshot it before it lunges again. This is an elite variant, so it does take a few extra hits to kill. There are a few giant bat spawns that are more hidden like this, so I figured I'd show them all as part of the guide. Zombies look and behave similar to mummies, but their primary attack has a long windup and releases a lingering cloud of toxic gas. In this instance though, I'm able to actually just keep outside of trigger distance from the zombie as I hit it, so I end up killing it before it actually lets one loose. You'll see what the gas attack looks like when I deal with other zombies in the room. Skeleton archers have a random chance of shooting either 1 or 2 arrows during each attack phase. You can dodge these arrows by sidestepping quickly and then going in to bonk it during the dead time. Similar to the crossbowman, we go for 1 hit the first time so we have time to dodge again, and then 2 hits to finish him off. And there's that toxic cloud attack that I referred to earlier. When a zombie is in one of these cages, for some reason its attack triggering range is much further than normal. Now you'll see its secondary attack, which is just a slow swipe that is dodged by backing up. After a decent amount of time has passed, the zombie will shoot another toxic cloud before resuming his swipes. Instead of jumping down into this lower area and aggroing multiple mobs at once, I just stand by the edge over this skeleton spawn so it comes up to me alone. The skeleton swordsman's only attacks are slow horizontal swings in either direction, and as long as you're on level ground, all of them can be dodged by just crouching and looking down. Bonk it in between dodges and this monster folds just like the rest of them. You can also dodge the skeleton swordsman by stepping back like this if you want, but you won't always have enough open space to do that. Like most other elite mobs, elite goblins are faster than their normal variants. To not get clipped by them, you'll have to dodge them a bit more quickly. The skeleton footman just has slow overhead slash attacks, all of which can be dodged by just stepping backwards as we follow our formula of bait, dodge, and punish. The skeleton guardsman is the same as the skeleton footman except it has a shield. It normally just does the overhead swipe attacks, but if you hit its shield by accident, it'll quickly do a more forward lunging slash attack, so just make sure that you get all clean headshots. The Skeleton Champion is the only mob in the Goblin Caves that is a base kit wizard we won't bother trying to kill. Instead, we'll just lead it into another room, use the invisibility spell to drop its aggro, and then lock it out and continue on. There's no trick to the swinging axe traps. You just have to be patient and get the timing right. You don't have to go through both of them at once. This particular spider pot has a wall spike trap behind it in the dark, so don't try to jump on top of the pot to break it or else you'll get skewered. This module has a couple of these floor spike traps scattered around. They'll obviously damage you if you were to step on them, so you just have to be aware of where you're walking and they shouldn't be a big problem. Since I'm dealing with 2 mobs at once in an area where other players frequently travel, I'm using the ignite spell to make the clearing process a little faster here.
Without cover, Goblin Bolaslingers can be dodged like the other ranged mobs, but the Bola is a large projectile, and the attack wind-up time varies significantly, so it can be tricky in close quarters even for a seasoned player like me. In this case, I missed a hit, and then the Goblin threw their Bola instantly and I got nicked by it. Oh well, we'll just go heal up and then come back to finish the job. On this path, there are 3 pistons. The 2 outside pistons fire at the same time, and then the center piston fires after the outer ones retract, and the cycle repeats. On this other path, all 3 pistons fire at the same time but have gaps in between. You can just cross the path 1 piston at a time like the other one, or if you time it well, you can run across the whole thing as soon as the pistons retract. I decide to go back to the first path to demonstrate it since it's a little harder. Notice how I pulled the melee goblin to this doorway where the Bola goblin can't hit me. This turns the 2v1 into 2 much easier 1v1s. Just like before, I pull this melee goblin to cover, where I'm safe from the ranged goblin while I kill it. As a complete beginner, I wouldn't advise going into this pit because you're likely to aggro multiple different skeletons at once, and it's filled with spike traps, but I will show you how to do it for when you think you're ready. The Skeleton Spearman has 3 possible attacks: a stab, a vertical swing, and a horizontal swing. However, if you get right in its face like I do here, it will only use the vertical swing attack repeatedly, which is easily sidestepped. This jump has to be done perfectly for the wall to not push you onto the spike trap, so I wouldn't advise it as a total beginner unless you have some heals. Bonking this Bola Goblin 3 times without getting hit by it in this tight area would be difficult for even an experienced player, so we just spend some magic missiles instead. When dropping into this lower area, make sure you drop in the northwest or the southeast corners so you don't drop directly on top of a centipede, since they're located in the northeast and southwest corners. Sometimes, a skeleton champion will spawn in this hidden room. Other times, like this, it'll just be a chest. You'll hear the champion stomping around if he's in there. In that case, just leave the door closed. I'm very careful about just barely getting into aggro distance of this archer because there's a buried mummy spawn just in front of me as well, and I want to clear these mobs one at a time. We're going to use mostly spells for dealing with giant spiders, since one of their main attacks is a spit attack that damages you and prevents you from attacking for several seconds. This spit attack can be difficult to consistently dodge within melee range without cover, so we just use a zap, and then a volley of magic missiles, and then a bonk on the head to finish it off. There's a wall spike right here at head height, so make sure you either crouch or hug the opposite wall if you pass through. It's usually a good idea to draw this ranged goblin out in the open rather than trying to deal with him in that cramped area. Dealing with all of these fast-moving mobs without taking damage can be super difficult, but luckily there's a health shrine in this room and another unguarded one in the module to the north. There are 4 pressure plates on the ground around the room that will release extra mobs from the ceiling. 2 of them are giant spiders like this one of them is a skeleton mage, and another is a skeleton champion. They can be triggered by either you or a mob stepping on them, so avoid them if possible, or at least until you've cleared all the mobs that are already spawned. Giant dragonflies use a spit attack that shoots in a flat cone shape in front of them. You can either just circle behind them as they start to spit, or if you have an elevation difference like I do here, the attack just goes into the ground. I didn't anticipate covering any PvP in this video, but it's just a brief interruption, so enjoy the show. This pressure plate opens the door to another centipede, so only step on it when you're ready. As I said previously, sometimes the giant spider's spit attack is nearly unavoidable in close range, so don't feel bad if you get hit. Luckily, we can just go back to the upper level to hit the health shrine, and then we can get back to clearing. The Skeleton Mage has a long wind-up fireball attack which can be tough to dodge in close quarters, so we just use magic missiles to kill it. A full volley of headshots should be enough. Notice how I lead this zombie out of the cramped room into the open, so when it releases its toxic gas, I'm not trapped in a corner with it. This underwater section has one zombie and 2 mummies. It also has a sticky floor that severely reduces your move speed, making it nearly impossible to dodge mummy lunges and toxic gas clouds consistently. So the best way to clear it is to just pull the mobs out of the water and clear them on dry land. This pressure plate opens a door to the other side of the room. Throw one of your torches on it to hold the door open for you to pass through. And just like that, now you know how to fully clear every module of the Goblin Caves map and are well on your way to becoming a spell-slinging demigod. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future guides and content, and leave me a comment with any specific questions you have. In addition to the video chapters for each module, for your convenience I will have timestamps in the description for the first time I fight each new mob. Well, thanks for watching, and good luck in the wipe. So long, friends!